Well, hello again, everybody. It's Friday, and that means it's time for roll call. And I'm fired up to be here with you. For our regular audience, welcome back. So happy to be here with you. For those of you who are new to roll call, welcome. This is the forum where we dig deeper into the principles that our team introduced to you by way of our keynotes, breakout sessions, workshops, and the Top Gun Teamwork Program. And if you and I haven't yet met, my name is Robert Teschner, call sign Cujo, founder and CEO here at Team VMAX Group. And I'm just fired up to be able to share a little bit with you about the things that help us to build the kinds of teams that win in disruption. And this week's reflection is an important one. It's coming to you directly on the heels of Thanksgiving 2024. And we don't usually put the date stamp on these things, but this year we're doing so. It's coming on the heels of Thanksgiving, and all of us here at Team VMAX Group hope that you had an absolutely blessed and magnificent one. We hope that you're going to have an outstanding Thanksgiving weekend and that your travels post-weekend are exceptional, that everything works out well for you. No delays. We pray that it doesn't end up like planes, trains, and automobiles getting back home. And then realizing that we've just come through Thanksgiving, we know that we've got a bunch of holidays up ahead, and that this whole phase really is the winding down of 2024 and the spinning up to get ready for the new year. And one of the questions that we've been talking about here at Roll Call is, what are we doing to best position ourselves to harness all the good that's out there and to have an exceptional entry into the new year? And so today we're going to talk about reading, pouring into ourselves. And we're going to talk about potentially what to read. All right? I'll take you back. I remember when I was a young pup going through F-15 training. We're in the squadron bar one Friday night. We're there for roll call. And before our Friday roll call really commences, one of the more senior instructors pulls my class of F-15 students aside and says, hey, listen, I want to give you guys some insight, some guidance, some wisdom based upon my time in the Air Force. And he proceeds to tell us, and there were, I think, 5 or 6 of us still in the class at the time. It goes, over the course of the next 20 years, during your Air Force careers, flying fighter aircraft, specifically the F-15, try to read 2,000 books. And I remember all of us looking at each other going, you're kidding me, right? 2,000 books. He's like, yeah, you need to read 2,000 books. That's how many books it's going to take to really advance your understanding of what you're up against out here as an officer in the United States Air Force and how it is that you need to win in combat. So 2,000, that's the number. But if you find that you're not able to meet that mark, you're too busy with other things, family gets in the way, life gets in the way, then my counsel is read 1,000 books and specifically focus on reading books written by those who lost in war. And again, we all scoffed him. Again, all of us were like, whatever, dude. We kind of went our ways. But of all the things that anybody's told me when I was going through F-15 school, that's the one thing that sticks, which is interesting, isn't it? Had nothing to do with tactics, had nothing to do with my ambitions directly to be able to graduate and go out there and fly, fight, and win. It was just wise counsel. And the more that I've reflected on it, the more I realize it was valid. You gotta understand stuff and things. And the best way to understand stuff and things is to read about it. And to consume knowledge and to think on it and to process it and spend time with it. And I'll tell you, I saw that consistently applied by the people that I worked for. The generals that I was assigned to. I remember working specifically directly hand in hand with a general for a couple of years who was always reading either 5 or 6 books. And he was simultaneously reading them. And every night he'd kind of rotate. He would spend some time on this book. This might be a history of whatever. Then he'd spend some time on this book. This book might be a business book. Then he'd spend some time on this book. This might be on strategy. Then he might be spending some time on this book. It might be a James Bond book. It might be an Ian Fleming James Bond book that he was just reading for joy. But he was always reading, trying to gather knowledge, to understand. And what I found was that this general that I was working for was doing the same thing that the other generals were doing. They were all consuming knowledge. So the question is, what are we doing as we're going into this preparation phase for the new year? And we talked last week about trying to learn from this year to position for next year, making sure we got the right team and everything set. We've got a good plan going into the new year. Then there's the mental preparation piece and the how are we going to better ourselves going into the new year? And this thirst for knowledge has got to be a part of it. And maybe the opportunity that we have before us is there might be some additional time to consume some stuff. So let's take a look at where we are this weekend. Let's take a look at the calendars. Let's take a look at what the associated holiday calendars have involved to figure out where we're going to pencil in some time to do some quiet reading. And I'll tell you a couple of different ways of doing this. One is to listen to books. Lots of us listen to books. Lots of us are out there. We're on the treadmill or we're driving and we're just listening to books. And that's fantastic. What a great strategy. You wonder, though, how much of that is actually absorbed and stays with us. That's one of the challenges, when we're just listening. The question is, how much are we retaining? When we study learning models, we find that taking notes really helps to retain. And so one of the thoughts might be to actually pick up some printed books and to take notes in the margin. And then the question is what books to read. And what I'd like to do is offer you some thoughts. And we could go on and on and on and on about all the books that have influenced me. But I think just based upon what I've learned over this year, 3 books are worth choosing from. If you can consume only one of these in its paper format with notes taken in the margins, I'd chalk that up as a win. And so I'll offer you what I'm thinking about. And it's all that we're talking about here today is centered around building a high-performance team. First book that I'm going to recommend is Intangibles by Joan Ryan. And I'll tell you why. All right, I'm going to read directly out of this. Forgive me for doing so, but I think it's important for you to understand. This from the inside flap of the hardcover version of this book. They say whether it's an unlikely World Series victory, a new coach turning around a flailing program, or just an improbable win in a clutch moment, one explanation is often invoked when a fun-loving underdog pulls off an upset: team chemistry. What exactly is team chemistry? Is there scientific or mathematical proof that it even exists? Is it as real and relevant as, say, on-base percentages or wins above replacement? Do its principles apply equally on a playing field and off? And then the book goes on to say the answer to all of the above is a resounding yes. Nearly 10 years in the making and drawing from a range of disciplines, including neuroscience, sociology, and psychology, Intangibles goes deep inside the subculture of clubhouses and locker rooms to show that while team chemistry is often considered an elusive and indefinable concept, it's actually a dynamic combination of biological and social forces that continually encourages players to be the best versions of themselves. And the reason why Joan picked baseball to study is because it's the least likely one to give us an understanding of team chemistry. Other sports like hockey, you have a shared consciousness. You're out there as one unified whole. And one would think that would provide us great insight. But baseball could be an individual sport played with a bunch of individuals serving their own interests. And yet team chemistry can exist there, and when it does amazing things. And that seems to be something that we as business owners and leaders can learn from to create the kind of chemistry that builds high-performing teams. And that's why this book is so interesting and compelling to me. I also happen to like baseball. And so that's one of the suggestions that I have for you. Going into the holiday season here in the end of 2024. Next up is red teaming. And I picked this one because of how much of a challenge it is to teach red teaming in Top Gun teamwork. For those of you that are familiar with our 5-step Eagle planning model, you know that we go from contingency planning into red teaming. The constant question is, what's the difference? So here's my answer. This one taken from Bryce Hoffman, and again, reading from the inside flap of this book. It just knocks it out of the park from the very get-go. What is red teaming? Developed by the military and intelligence agencies, red teaming is a revolutionary way to stress test strategies, flush out unseen threats and missed opportunities, and execute more successfully in an increasingly uncertain world. By making critical and contrarian thinking part of the planning process, red teaming helps companies and other organizations challenge their assumptions, strengthen their plans, counteract groupthink, and outthink the competition. And you know that I personally think that business is a battle. We're in the business battle space. We've got competition of all sorts. One of the things that we teach by virtue of our debrief model is how a team can learn its way through disruption. Red teaming is about thinking. This book is about outthinking the competition. We teach outlearning the competition. Everything here is part and parcel with what we teach. This is a book that describes how to do it. It's an outstanding resource. It's the second thing that I might recommend that you read going into the new year. And then we've got this one. And many of you are already familiar with the concept. The book is called Culture by Design by my friend David Friedman. And my dog-eared copy of this book has been very influential on me, the way that I think, the way that we teach, and what it is we do here at Team VMAX Group. I'll just quickly read for you off the back cover of this book. Culture has become the hottest word in today's organizational lexicon. From boardrooms to locker rooms, everyone's talking about the critical link between culture and extraordinary team performance. Yet as clear as that link may be, understanding what culture is and what to do about it has always been so murky. Until now. In this game-changing book, David Friedman cuts through the fog and provides a simple, clear, and practical roadmap for building a high-performing culture in any organization. Quite possibly, it's the most useful book ever written on organizational culture. Again, mine's dog-eared, notes taken throughout, notes all over the place. Really, really good reference that we use in the work that we do. Might be a good reference for you in the work that you do. Point is, these are 3 references. Pick one of those. Order it on Amazon. It'll be here in a day or 2. Go to Barnes & Noble, pick up the hardcover. It's just nice to have these things in hand. Wherever it is that you get a book, thrift books, heck, you can get a used version of any of these things for just a couple of bucks. Point is, we got to pour into ourselves. Point is, the guidance that I got when I was a young pup in F-15 school was valid. We got to understand what we're up against to best position ourselves to lead against it, to lead through it, to build teams that win in disruption. That's the whole point. And the opportunity before us is we've got some time potentially on our hands. Maybe it's a flight going back home for the holidays. Maybe it's the fact that there are a few days where nothing's on the schedule. Maybe the kids are going to go off to see somebody and you've got some time back, whatever the case might be. Let's pour into ourselves, shall we, during this time, to position ourselves to lead effectively going into the new year. That's the ambition, at least for all of us here at Team VMAX Group, to lead better going into the new year so that we could seize the opportunities that are with us and make this the best year we've ever had in business. All right, friends. Know that we're still rooting for you. We always are rooting for you. Can't wait to meet with you again next Friday as we continue to work on building the kinds of teams that thrive in disruption. I'll see you again next week.